CM Punk up to 2005 was considered one of the most interesting talents coming up. Punk had a unique blend of character, promo, and in-ring skills. He always showed hunger and wanted to strive to be number one. His confidence was almost arrogant, and more often than not, he would wear his heart on his sleeve. Around this time period, there was two talent that were considered the best of the best: Samoa Joe and CM Punk. These two were bound to land a big money move in the near future. For Joe, it ended up being TNA. CM Punk, though, had things a little open. He was considering returning to TNA. WWE was a big name, though, and always had the advantage, because at the end of the day, WWE is WWE. They had shown some interest in him, but it wasn't much. That would change after a tryout match. He featured on Sunday Night Heat, and that was enough for WWE to offer him a contract. CM Punk's name generated enough interest, not to mention he was considered the Triple H of ROH. It seemed as if he was going to close out his indie dates and leave ROH after Death Before Dishonor. This was going to be his final match, and it was for the ROH World Championship. His opponent was Austin Aries. He received a warm reception from the fans who assumed he was on his way out, as did everyone else. Plenty of respect shown between Aries and Punk before the match. The match was slow and saw Punk overwhelm Aries with holds. He was very dominant with very few offense moves from the champion. Punk was schooling him and doing it slowly. When the champion did fight back, he had a rough fireman's carry on the apron. That did a number on CM Punk. Aries used the corner to his advantage to inflict damage. He was doing it repeatedly. Aries wore down the challenger well, but at this point they were both feeling it. The match started to feel a bit more even at this point and saw them go for more risks. Aries hit this brutal superplex or almost a brainbuster and decided to go up top for the 450. He didn't hit it, but it was no problem. He used Punk's own finisher on him and got him to kick out at 1. Punk basically no-sold his 450 and locked in the Anaconda Vice. The fans were going crazy, but Aries desperately reached for the rope. Still though, Punk was in a crucial situation and saw him go all out. He hit the TKO in the knee before going up top for the finisher, the Pepsi plunge. 1, 2, 3, new champion. The man everyone expected to go away became champion for the last time, and that crowd wasn't going to let him go without thanking him. Aries was upset but still had enough respect and honor to embrace with the new champion. Punk grabbed the mic and called the ROH World Championship the most important title in the world. Punk said that the title in another hands is just a belt, whereas with him, it's power. Same with the mic, it becomes a pipe bomb. He told the story about a snake that was held by a man and it bit him when it was healed. Same with Punk, the greatest thing the devil ever did is make people think he didn't exist. And he turned on the fans, telling them they all fell for him. He's the devil. CM Punk wasn't mad at the fans, rather upset with them. He said he had to do what he had to do to win the title, and it makes him the best pro wrestler in the world. He's better than Low-Ki, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and said that the champ is here. He's poking fun, obviously. Punk said he's taking this title to WWE with him, and the fans started chanting Joe, Joe, Joe for him to come out. Christopher Daniels was up for the challenge to save the dignity of ROH. He said he was waiting for 16 months for this chance. Daniels returned to ROH for the first time in about a year and a half. They brawled with Daniels getting the upper hand and sending Punk running. The fans called him CMC, and he declined the challenge and told him to kiss his ass. This was a great first moment for this story. CM Punk at his core is the devil, and he didn't make any doubts on that. It's just the fans were too gullible. The match itself was great and had a lot of energy behind it. Punk was mostly in control throughout it and played the great role of a fighting babyface. It's just funny how he quickly did a 180 and became a huge villain by the end of the show. He started coming out to cult of personality at the time. CM Punk went into detail about why he did what he did, and he came out wearing a suit going all corporate. The news of him signing to WWE was well known. He told a story about the time where ROH and TNA stopped their association, and the story about how he stopped being cool with AJ Styles. Punk chose to stick with ROH after that and had a lot of issues with the fact that people don't appreciate him. Daniels and Styles left this place for TNA. They didn't stay around. Even Samoa Joe and Low-Ki. Punk's bitterness was on display here. The fact that they're craving non-stop action from those four when he's the one working hard to put ROH on the map. He's the backbone of this company. Then he spoke about his offer from WWE. The fans chanted, "You sold out," and he said that people doubted he signed like idiots. Punk admitted he hadn't signed the contract yet, and he brought that out. The offer from WWE. He called it his key to freedom and signed the contract. He didn't just sign the contract, he did it on top of the belt. This was after the announcer and the ref refused to do it. And meant he disrespected the fabric that this promotion was built on to establish himself as a grade A sellout with no morals. Although in his eyes, it's kind of logical. When you look at it in general, it is logical. It's just ROH portrayed him as a villain because it's ROH. James Gibson had a huge problem with this. Daniels once again caught him off guard and they tried jumping him. Later that night, he wanted to challenge anybody for the title, and since nobody came out, he thought it was an off day. Why did he challenge people at this point? Why did no one come out? Well, the major challengers such as the Briscoes, Samoa Joe, Low-Ki, they weren't in the arena. And he thought it was a night off until Mick Foley came out. The hardcore legend wasn't here to wrestle as he wasn't in shape to face CM Punk. Foley felt disrespected and said Punk looks ridiculous with the new look. He noticed him acting like he would face anyone but failed to mention they weren't at the show. He told him that he didn't make ROH ROH made him. Mick Foley wanted him to do the right thing for himself and the business. He needs to give others a challenge. In the wrestling business, there's only one way you can be champion, but unfortunately, Gabe Sapolsky doesn't have a daughter he can marry. And this was enough to give Punk a reason to respond. Punk said Foley can't live up to Triple H, 3-time champion for a total of 3 weeks. He can't hold a candle to someone with 3 initials. Punk called him a big draw and said that Foley isn't in JBL's league. Mick Foley didn't care about the insults but said that many wrestlers are happy to have him in his career. Triple H's star power might have something to do with him. 940,000 buys against Batista, maybe he had something to do with it. He left the WWE a better place than he found it. Foley asked if Punk wanted to leave ROH as the guy that had 5-star matches with Samoa Joe or the guy that stunk up the place when he left ROH. CM Punk thought he did enough for ROH, but he understood what he said. So he wanted to face a young upstart, someone that beat him in the past. So he called out Jay Lethal. Punk gave him the chance at the title. He had the entire crowd on his side. Lethal quickly overwhelmed Punk with the Dragon Suplex and had the match won, but Punk fell to the outside. The challenger left him dazed. Jay Lethal was dominant throughout this one and Punk had to throw him on the ropes to take control. He slowed down the pace and wore down Lethal with strikes and holds. He had a lot of fight and Samoa Joe came out to motivate him. Jay Lethal put up a fight, but CM Punk shut him down and made a mockery out of Samoa Joe. He hit the Muscle Buster and beat Lethal with the sleeper. They almost fought, but when Foley came out, Punk took advantage and quickly made a run for it after James Gibson came out. Decent match, you know, this match wasn't much, it was just there. It was just another part of the story, it wasn't much. The next night, Punk interrupted the show. James Gibson was wrestling and he turned off the lights. CM Punk took great offense to him coming out after his match and he wanted to teach Roderick Strong a lesson in his match later on. Punk called the fans puppets and said that it's gonna be a non-title match. But then Mick Foley came out again. He threatened to throw him off the balcony if he didn't make it a title match. Yeah, this is what it's come down to. What's next? A gunshot to the arm if a match is a regular singles match? Punk didn't feel threatened by Roddy Strong. The challenger's advantage was the technical wrestling. Punk, on the other hand, was using his experience and knew what Strong was capable of. Strong worked hard on that bag to damage Punk. They weren't calling him the Messiah of backbreaker yet, but he was showing signs that maybe he's one of the best in what he does. Punk's biggest haters were watching on and his ass was out and he didn't care because his mind was on the match. Strong wanted to punish him for his sins and he went all out and overwhelmed Punk with a sequence. This was much more grueling than the Jay Lethal match because Roderick Strong was posed as an actual threat. These two were going all out, especially Roddy Strong. That man was going crazy and just when he had the match won, Punk had his foot on the rope. He stole the match with some leverage from the ropes and Roddy was disappointed. It seemed as if CM Punk was gonna leave Ring of Honor with the title, he was most likely gone. James Gibson still wanted a shot, but it looked unlikely. Mick Foley had enough and sent him back into the ring. Gibson dropped him with a Tiger Bomb and pinned him. He took the belt as if he won, but said he wasn't champion because the fans were shouting, "You're not champion." Gibson challenged him for the belt. The match with Strong was great. I think it was even better in 2005, you know, because our perception of it right now is kind of different because we look at it from today's perspective. They worked very hard out there with those smooth counters and impactful moves. It felt like whenever someone hit a clothesline, it took a lot out of them. It could have been the moment where one of them won the belt. That's how good it was. You know, like you didn't know what move was gonna end it. Punk still made fun of James Gibson and called him a redneck. The match was on and the champion said that he's gonna ruin his dreams. Sure, he's a great wrestler and maybe even the MVP of ROH that year, but he never wins those great matches he has. Sunday Night Heat chant intensifies and I was laughing. James Gibson would be the best if it wasn't for him. He praised him and said he is a #1 because he failed against Austin Aries, Samoa Joe, and the only reason he gave him a shot was so he could tell his son that he can't win the big one. Gibson came out and sent him running, as is usual. So he told him that his time is almost up. He refused to see Punk disrespect the title in the company, and the champion decided to take advantage of Gibson and attacked him right before their match was about to begin. Punk laid him out and told him that the title will never be his. Gibson was brutalized, but he still went out there. Punk assumed that he was going to be out, but he still had enough fight to be a threat. He went after the arm and Punk definitely felt it. He suffered, but Gibson was in a much tougher position. Through sheer will and aggression, James Gibson, though, made this a much even fight. The crowd went crazy when he hit the Tiger Bomb, but it still wasn't enough. Punk was starting to feel the pressure. It got to the point where Punk cheated to win, and he had to run away like a scalded dog, as they say. Great match once again. This one was a grueling battle. It took a lot out of both men. And the thing with these performances is that all the guys that face CM Punk, it feels like they really give it their all. And he just finds a way to outsmart them and get booed by the crowd. He bragged about the victory, but just when he's celebrating the win, Christopher Daniels reminded him of his next challenger. Daniels made his mark and held the title up, potentially signaling what's to come. This was Punk's best match of his title reign. He told Punk he could go to Raw, SmackDown, Heat, Velocity, Afterburn, but if he wants to hold the title, he has to go through him. Christopher Daniels got his chance at Philadelphia. The Fallen Angel seemed very likely to win the belt here because ROH had been positioning him as the guy to watch out for ever since Punk won the title. This was the slowest match in the title reign. They took all their time with this one, they traded takedowns for a couple of minutes and were feeling out for a long time, and then they ramped it up very slowly. They were gonna go the distance. ROH is very famous for these 60-minute matches. With this one, it was good. They paced it well and preserved the best for later on. A referee drama happened during the match. After the suplex, they went crazy, plenty of near falls, and with the time passed, it felt like any move could end it. Punk was even bringing out some of his old offense. They heard the 5-minute announcement and went even crazier. Punk tried using all his dirty tactics, but Daniels had them scouted. Back and forth, near falls, moonsault, the Anaconda Vice. Daniels had him with the Angel's Wing, but time ran out. That's how it ended once more. Punk survives another battle, and the fans were pissed. He beat up Allison Danger and destroyed Daniels. Gibson comes in and takes a belt shot, and all that was left was Samoa Joe. And when he came out in sandals, he overwhelmed Punk and sent him running. This was a strong match, it's just the next one was much better. That's the thing about it. In terms of like 60-minute ROH matches, there's definitely better. This was good though. Punk defended the title in a fatal 4-way match in Dayton, Ohio. Similar to the previous match, they were gonna go far. Punk was basically wrestling a handicap match with each guy taking turns initially. They refused to tag in. Gibson refused to tag in, leaving him alone with Samoa Joe. He had to outsmart them and make a run for it, tagging in Daniels. These three wanted to ensure CM Punk doesn't make it out of their champion. They were the last obstacle in the way before he goes to WWE. He was doing way more with his dirty tactics, such as using the chair on James Gibson. This was, by the way, against the rules. The ref didn't notice, and he had to be taken to the back. This turned into a triple threat match with the guys showing why the ROH title was valuable. It sounds vague, but that's what it was. Daniels managed to get eliminated by Samoa Joe, leading to a moment where Daniels gets involved and ends up costing Samoa Joe the match, and Punk managed to eliminate Samoa Joe, and the fans were stunned. Because at this point, it's like, he beat two of the biggest threats, and all that was left was James Gibson, and he wasn't even in the arena, as they said. The frustration from Joe after taking the kick that led to the elimination showed. They brawled here and back in the ring even though Joe was out. It didn't mean things got easier for Punk, because James Gibson was back. He had the spirit of ROH behind him. A champion took a lot out of him with the TKO, but he was still in it. At this point, the ref didn't care if he used the chair. He did just that, but back in the ring, Punk dropped him with a Shining Wizard before going for the Anaconda Vice. Gibson still had enough in him to hit the Tiger Bomb, but it was one of the best kickouts you'll see. They started cursing the ref, so he hit a Super Tiger Bomb. 1, 2, 3, new champion. James Gibson finally rids Ring of Honor of the Second City Satan. In doing so, they reclaimed the most valuable prize in the game, the World Championship. This was a good match. It was a great match as well. James Gibson's ROH run isn't talked about a lot. I think it's because when he went back to WWE a couple of weeks later, he didn't do much, not to mention he was in between the reigns of CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. CM Punk was going away, and at this point, he had one more thing to do. That was go up against his good friend, Colt Cabana. This was going to be a 2 out of 3 falls match. This was them just having fun and vibing. A lot of wrestling here, and they didn't care about turning it into a fight. Initially, obviously. Then after a talk, they got intense. Punk low-blowed him and took advantage to win the first fall. Cabana responded with a big clothesline to win the second fall. This is where they went all out. Near falls, a brutal backdrop from the top rope, a big Samoan drop from the top, and Punk only lost with a roll-up, and the fans looked disappointed because it meant the end of CM Punk and ROH. They were absolutely stunned and sad. But it had to happen, you know. CM Punk had to leave, and obviously the fans were going to hold him for it. They just did that in storyline because that's what the story was. They weren't going to hold him to it. They knew they were going to lose a valuable talent. The roster came out to give him farewell. Punk thanked the fans and told them that this is one of the best days in his life. And he drank some Pepsi, I assume. You know, I'm pretty sure that's Pepsi. It's very hard to hear his promo here because the damn mics are so loud. They're almost as loud as some of my videos, right? But this was a good farewell, you know. Punk, he did a lot for ROH. He wasn't the guy to put it on the map, but he was one of the guys to put it on the map. You get what I'm saying? It's him, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Low Key, AJ Styles. All these guys helped put ROH on the map. And he was bound to leave, you know, because Punk, he was a great talker. And that's one of the reasons why it stood out initially. Like, that's one of the reasons why WWE signed him. Because all the other guys, they could wrestle great. You know, some of them were better wrestlers than Punk. They had more exciting moves, more exciting matches, but he had his character fully fleshed out and something that WWE could easily throw onto the main roster, so maybe that's why they signed him. But yeah, this was a great run. The Summer of Punk originally had a lot of magic to it. He turned into a sellout, but obviously had his reasons for doing so, because at the end of the day, these guys didn't curse AJ Styles, Samoa Joe for leaving ROH. They were still around, but they were mostly with TNA at this point. But it was a great run and some of the best work CM Punk did, because the character work here was crazy. He went all out, he cursed out the fans, he wore that suit, he had the purple hair. He was going insane here. The best promo was the one where he signed the WWE contract on the ROH belt. I thought that was the best one. The best match is the finale, I'd say. The finale of the title reign, not the finale with Colt Cabana. That one had a lot of drama to it, and it's like, it just might have been Samoa Joe to beat him, but it turned out to surprisingly be James Gibson. That was good. So yeah. Alright, what you guys think of the Summer of Punk? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the Anaconda Vice on the like button and perhaps a Pepsi plunge on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.